Did we watch the other video that Kimmy sent? What? Oh god. The Dark Secrets of the Super Rich. Is that the video with the Nazis? Oh god, it is the video with the Nazis. Oh sheesh. Did we break open this video? That's a rough one.
Back in
Let's go. Okay, we're watching a fun video again. Title is Germany, the Dark Secrets of the Super Witch. I've watched something like this before. Maybe I even watched this video exactly. But it's a very, very good video about how companies in Germany profited off of the Nazis in World War II. Well, which people?
2019, on a cool spring day in Hamburg, a 25-year-old woman took the stage at one of the largest digital marketing conventions in the world. And she'd say something that would make a lot of people angry.
Mein Name ist Verena, ich bin die 4. Generation von Balsen. Wir backen seit 130 Jahren Kekse. Ich würde gerne mal mit euch ein Experiment ausprobieren und wir gucken einfach mal, was passiert. Ich würde gerne mal heute nicht versuchen, irgendwas vermeintlich Schlaues zu sagen.
Balsen is a baked goods company, most known for their Leibniz butter biscuit, the Choco Leibniz milk chocolate biscuit, as well as animal crackers.
Leibniz!
They're a German family-run, cookie-cutter company with pastries that are profitable, producing hundreds of millions in yearly revenue. And that revenue is something that Verena made the mistake of appreciating a bit too publicly.
Mir gehört ein Viertel von Balsen, da freue ich mich auch drüber. Es soll mir auch weiterhin gehören. Ich will Geld verdienen und mir Segelyachten kaufen von meiner Dividende und sowas.
This was
I want to earn money and buy sailing yachts for my dividends. Shut the fuck up. Go, how about you don't steal money from people that... whatever. Fuck you.
Ich will Geld verdienen und mir Segelyachten kaufen von meiner Dividende und sowas.
This was cringe.
The way she looks while
Not
saying
only because
it
she was a 25-year-old family-made millionaire who wanted a yacht, but also because her wealth came from a company that had used forced labor during World War II. From around 1940 to the end of the Second World War, the Balsen Company obtained hundreds of forced laborers to be used at their factory in Hanover. What made things worse for Verena, though, is that she did not take kindly to the criticism of her speech. Later, she told the German tabloid that the forced laborers were before her time.
Oh my god, this is the stupidest thing ever. It's not okay to associate my lecture with that. That was before my time of paid the forced laborers the same as the Germans. What? How can you say? How you can... what the... I need to not go crazy here. How can you say forced laborers were paid the same as the Germans and we treated them well? How can you treat someone well that was forced to work? Are you fucking stupid, Verena? I know you're rich and you never had to fucking pay attention to anything because you didn't need to do anything ever in your life besides getting fucking everything shoved up your giant faux ass. But how about it? If you get forced to do something, it doesn't matter if you paid for it or not, because you probably won't have any fucking incentive to spend that money. First off, second off, the forced laborers, guess who they were? Political enemies, Jews, communists, people that were otherwise not welcomed in Germany, and later put into fucking death camps, you dumb fucking bitch.
That they were paid exactly as much as German workers, and that the company treated them well. Surprisingly, people didn't think it was a particularly clever clapback, and days later, Verena was taken out of the spotlight and issued a public apology. But it was too late. Balsen stirred the pot,
public
so
apology
investigative
after
reporters
being
decided to add some more
advised
ingredients.
to do so by smarter
They discovered
people.
that the owners of the Balsen biscuit empire had been members of the Nazi Party and donated to the SS.
What? Wait, let me
The
hear
owners
again.
of the Balsen biscuit empire had been members of the Nazi Party and donated to the SS.
The fuck? Oh yeah, So the people that owned this company, like my grandparents, were actively supporting the killing of about 6 million Jews and some other people too. But we treated the workers nice.
Many of the involuntary laborers used in Hanover came from a factory in Kiev, a factory that the Balsan family had taken over after Nazi occupation. So the Balsans hired a German historian, Manfred Krieger, to investigate them, only after it was convenient for them to do so. Now, whether the Balsans are a family to be upset about, we don't know. Farina Balsan is no Nazi, but we can tell you whether the Balsan family history and how they handled it is truly unique. It's not. The Balsans aren't alone.
The important point is, of course, this fucking young girl isn't a Nazi. That's not what anyone is saying. The fact is that she profited as Nazis of her grandparents or grandparents being Nazis, making massive profits of that, and then just sitting there and being like, yeah, well, I wanna go have yachts, and we paid the workers nice. No, you fucking bitch! Be apologetic, do your best to make up for this shit, and how about you just... fucking go fuck yourself.
And they're so far from the worst.
We remember the AFD prefers to forget. The AFD prefers to fucking shut the fuck up.
Germany is the economic powerhouse of the European Union, a country with an iron grip of the global manufacturing industry and a specialized, powerful Mittelstand. But the strong German economy is built on top of a business tradition that's quite different from other Western countries. Some of its largest and most important enterprises are largely or fully controlled by families.
Volkswagen Group being number one, having almost twice as much profit as the Schwarz Group, which is all the supermarkets. The BMW Group being third, basically the same as the Schwarz Group. Fun fact, number two, the Schwarz Group being Lidl, Kaufland, the main supermarkets, grocery stores in Germany. Very, very interesting fact. In Germany, since 2021, we had about a 30% increase in, in basic groceries, meaning bread, milk, all that super basic grocery stuff, like all the food stuff. 30% increase. The Schwarz Group had a 30% increase in revenue. Oh, what a coincidence, am I right, guys? Damn, inflation hitting so hard, guys. Oh my god, it's totally inflation, and not just people wanting to be richer.
And families have histories.
My name is David de Jong, a Middle East correspondent for the Dutch Financial Daily, and I wrote Nazi Billionaires. Nazi Billionaires is the story of 5 of Germany's wealthiest business dynasties, the way they profiteered from the Third Reich, the way they got involved with Hitler's regime, the way they got away with the crimes, and the way the heirs are dealing with these crimes today.
This is a video about 3 of these families. Families that share a difficult Nazi past, but also produce products that you likely know and can consume today. And 3 families who...
Wait, can I Google in this? Like, if I Google here, does it leak anything? Maybe I'm gonna do studio mode real quick. No, wait, that doesn't work.
Instead of fully acknowledging that past,
Whatever.
have twisted and turned and fought trying to hide it until, of course, it was
I'm just gonna
convenient
risk
not
it
to.
later.
Families that have accrued so much wealth and top financial leaderboards, but with names and faces you don't know. So this story starts with a face you probably do.
Frozen
Heinrich
pizza
Himmler
and
was one of the
duffel.
leading figures of the Nazi Party and one of the main architects of the Holocaust. He was appointed by Hitler to the Reichsführer of the
One of the main
Schutzstaffel, which
cunts.
eventually led him to the position of Reichskommissar for the strengthening of the German ethnic stock.
You guys will all wait, let me not pause during the swastika. You guys want to know a fun fact about the loser Himmler? He always wanted to be a soldier, but he was too much of a loser. He didn't have the strength, he had a weak body and shit. And he wanted to be a soldier and he was super proud of his German inheritance. But he could never be because he was just too much of a loser, so he had to make his own. So he had to organize his own shit. Don't be a loser, guys, and you won't be a
Hitler
Nazi
could decide who
either.
was German in occupied areas and how to efficiently handle those who were not. He established the first concentration camp, which impressed Hitler so much that Himmler was tasked with establishing the entire system. He was entrusted with implementing the final solution of the Jewish question, and his Einsatzgruppen alone killed nearly 2 million
Disgusting.
people. But we're not here to talk about the atrocities of Himmler.
But that's the crazy part, the Einsatzgruppen of the SS killed 2 million people. That's not even counting the 6 million Jews that died in the concentration camps. That's the crazy part.
We're here to talk about his friends. The Freundeskreis der Wirtschaft was a group of German industrialists that served as a middle ground between Nazi Party and industry. The group coordinated around 1 million German marks to be used by Himmler outside of budget, which included the Aryan eugenics research. One of the especially passionate Nazis in that group was the CEO of a company most know a bit too well. Richard Kosolowski.
He was a Nazi ideologue. He had a portrait of Hitler in his office.
But he probably masturbated to that picture of Hitler too, like a fucking loser that he was.
He handed out signed copies of Mein Kampf to new employees, and in Himmler's inner circle, he attended practically every meeting at the Aero Club in Berlin.
Meeting of having make-out party.
Kosolowski funded Himmler's Lebensborn, the plan to support Aryanization by seizing children from parents.
This is so disgusting. It makes me so sad that this exists. And ironically, this is so
Categorizing them
stupid.
and reassigning them to different ones, with the unwanted ones being murdered in concentration camps. Luckily for Kosolowski, he was the stepfather of a child who would never have to be reassigned. Rudolf August Oetker.
Dit is een Big American's Pizza.
Kruimelde kandijkoekjes.
Lay it La Familia way.
Führerische Pizza-Restaurante.
Dr. Oetker'den.
Go to a frozen food section of your local supermarket or look for baking supplies, and you'll be sure to encounter that same name. Dr. Oetker is one of the largest family-run German multinationals on the planet, with yearly sales revenue in the multi-billions. Rudolf August considered his stepfather Richard Kosolowski, the CEO of Oetker, his real father.
I couldn't imagine a better father than Richard Kosolowski, Rudolf August said in an interview with a German newspaper more than a half a century later, nor a better teacher for me.
Unlike his real father, Rudolf August was a real Nazi. Rudolf August was not drafted, but volunteered to join the Waffen-SS.
Cringe.
It was only for the most fervently ideological Nazis who would join the Waffen-SS. It was a very stringent training and a very stringent selection process, so it was abnormal in that sense.
Rudolf August later claimed that he didn't know the extent of the concentration camps, which was weird.
So the part why this is in particular bad is this guy at the time that he joined the Waffen-SS was 25-ish or something. If someone that is 16, 17, 18 joined the Waffen-SS or the Hitlerjugend during this time, I feel like they were indoctrinated super hard, gaslit, and educated to be this way. But this guy decided to be this way. That's the main difference.
Because he trained in one.
So part of Rudolf August Oetker's training took place at Dachau concentration camp, and he would later claim that the barracks were separate from the concentration camp, but in fact it was part of the same complex, and concentration camp prisoners would clean the barracks of the aspiring SS officers that were trained there.
Yet, Rudolf's Nazi past never really mattered after the war ended.
Look, this is cringe. This guy joined the main organization that was at fault for killing most of the people, most of the innocent people during the World War. This guy visited a concentration camp, knew exactly what was going on, forced labor, people being worked to death, and people being actively executed. And he had zero punishment out of all of this. No crime. Because no crime for rich people.
Although his family benefited from Aryanizations, the use of forced and slave labor, Rudolf August was detained only for his role in the Waffen-SS. The denazification of Rudolf August Oetker never even went to trial. Instead, he was exonerated by an internal subcommittee made up entirely of his company's own employees. A few months later, British officials confirmed his exoneration. He lied that he was forcibly moved to the Waffen-SS, even though he volunteered and also had a knack for Aryanizing property. So instead, Rudolf August was made CEO. And over the next few decades, he turned Dr. Oetker into a multi-billion-euro empire. When he died in 2007, the company was distributed among his 8 children, making each of them individual billionaires.
Each of them individual billionaires, by the way.
Inherited a similar stake in the Dr. Oetker conglomerate, which at this point was, one of the largest privately owned companies in Germany.
But Rudolf was a quiet man, so he was able to hide his past quite well. In a press statement to us, the Oetker Group clarified that he in fact vetoed any investigation into the Nazi history of the company until after his death. It wasn't until 2008, a year after his death, that Rudolf's children commissioned historians to truly understand their company's history. And an uncomfortable history they found. In 2013, August Oetker, his eldest son, acknowledged that his father was a Nazi. But this announcement does not mean that the family was suddenly okay with being fully transparent about their past. Rudolf August married multiple times. Although the older Oetker children were open to commissioning the study, the 3 younger children were less receptive. The mother of the 3 youngest, Maya, rejected the investigation's claim that her late husband was a committed Nazi, but Rudolf was, of course, a quiet man. In order to maintain harmony and unity within his family, Rudolf August had hoped that his eldest son, August, would train Alfred to take over the position of CEO, a forced power split between oldest and youngest. But when August gave up operational management, he'd promote his younger brother Richard instead. This was enough to split Dr. Oetker into 2, and today they still remain ideologically divided.
There were 2 foundations under Dr. Oetker.
But where the eldest siblings decided to change the foundation named after their Nazi grandparents, the youngest siblings decided to keep their Rudolf August Foundation
as it is, without any kind of cognizance of his history as an...
I feel like the least you can do if something like this happens is to be honest about the past, right? Like, be transparent, be real. That's the very least you can do.
An SS officer.
In a statement to us, the younger siblings' communications team argues that the name of their foundation is kept because the family has already transparently dealt with their past through their commissioned historical study and provenance research into the Oetker art collection. A majority of Oetker sales are generated outside of Germany, but go to their English site and you'll have a hard time figuring out who Rudolf August Oetker or his stepfather really were. You can find the link to the study they commissioned, but you can only buy that book in German.
Oh my god, that's
in English,
a bit of a
you can
joke.
learn that Rudolf August rebuilt and helped diversify Dr. Oetker on the company website, but you'll see no mention of him voluntarily signing up to join the Waffen-SS. Today, his children are some of the wealthiest people on the planet, and although the Oetker children have put some questionable effort into bringing attention to their family's Nazi past, there are some families who have put in no effort at all. In this video, we are discussing dark family secrets, which should be revealed and openly discussed. But there are certain types of information that should stay private. Information such as your personal data. Online data breaches are rising worldwide.
Yep.
The business of data brokers is booming. They sell aggregated profiles with security numbers, login credentials, addresses, and much more. If your mailbox is full of spam, or if you're receiving a robocall from time to time, it might be because you're on some of those lists. In Cogni, the sponsor of today's video, reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. Through the link in the description below, and with the code FERNTV, you can get an exclusive 60% discount on an annual Incogni plan. Our sponsors enable us to fund time and money-consuming projects like this one, so feel free to check out Incogni. We think that data protection cannot be valued highly enough. In May of 2017, 3 people met at a restaurant outside of Munich. A publisher, a journalist from a Bavarian public state broadcaster, and a man named Ernst Knut Stahl. According to the publisher, under oath, Stahl had said, "There's danger ahead. There's a street in New York with lots of investment bankers, lawyers, and so forth. Coincidentally, they are all Jews, but that's not relevant here. They want to push Germany into ruin. They control everything." The publisher also said that Stahl followed up by saying that there should be a newspaper, one that actually writes the truth, and that Peter Bartels, a former editor-in-chief of Bild, would help. Months later, a newspaper did show up with Bartels helping write it, a paper openly supportive of the AfD. The AfD was a relatively young political party in Germany at this point. Initially anti-Euro, it shifted course at the end of 2014, during the refugee crisis. Today, it is considered right-wing extremist and racist by the German Institute for Human Rights. Now, the question naturally arose, where did the newspaper's funding come from? See, Ernst Knut Stahl, the man who talked about Jews controlling everything, was not any man. He was the asset manager for one of the wealthiest German billionaires, August von Fink Jr. August Jr. was a private man, the eldest of the von Fink empire. He passed away in late November 2021 and left behind an investment in real estate empire where the real estate is said to encompass
more than half of Munich city center and much of the land surrounding Munich, which is some of the priciest land in the world.
But when August von Fink Jr. was alive, you wouldn't find him living in Germany because he had moved to Switzerland for tax reasons. And it's that knack of evading any cost.
Rich people moving somewhere else to pay less taxes name a more iconic duo
That he must have gotten from his father. Back in 1931, in Berlin's Hotel Kaiserhof, Hitler was meeting Germany's wealthiest to ask them to acquire weapons for the SA, the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party. The first man Hitler would speak to would be August von Fink Sr., the father of August von Fink Jr. The senior controlled Merck Fink and held significant shares of Allianz and Munich Re because his father
co-founded Munich Re and Allianz, 2 of the world's largest insurers and reinsurers today.
Von Fink, known for being the stingiest man in Bavaria, had little issues with raising money for Nazis. August von Fink Sr. helped promise 5 million Reichsmarks via Allianz to arm the SA. And for his financial services, von
That's like also once again like an extra cringe part. I mean the SA, that means this is way before Germany, before the Nazis, before Hitler was in power. This person literally helped Hitler come to power.
Fink was rewarded with political advantages by being able to target his Jewish enemies.
Once the persecution against Jews really ramped up in 1937-38, he wrote a letter saying that one of his main competitors, Martin Aufhäuser, should be expropriated, basically, on the basis of the bank being in Jewish ownership.
Fink wrote a letter to Munich's Chamber of Commerce that the German private banking sector is still largely made up of non-Aryan firms. The gradual cleansing of this trade, which is so strongly influenced by the Jewish element, must not be halted by the granting of applications for exemptions, but must be promoted by all means. Aufhäuser's bank was seized during Kristallnacht, and von Fink got a taste for a forbidden fruit that he wouldn't stop chasing. J. Dreyfus was one of the largest German Jewish private banks, and Fink put the Jewish owner, Willy Dreyfus,
under so much pressure that he ended up selling the bank far under the market value of what the bank was worth.
Fink also went ahead and did the same thing to the Rothschilds.
August von Fink Sr.
This guy, as we all know in capitalism, every time you make big money that you've earned it, right? Like this guy worked so fucking hard to earn all his money. It's crazy, right? Like he was smart enough to finance people that would just kill the enemies, pressure them. So genius. This guy deserves his money, really. Wow. Impressive. Stupid bitch.
Ended up buying the Rothschild Bank for tens of millions under its market value, while its main owner, the Rothschild heir, was held captive by the SS in a hotel in central Vienna.
Now, von Fink was not merely a financial opportunist, he was also a real Nazi.
August von Fink Sr. was very much a committed Nazi, even though he tried to hide it as best he could after the end of the
He
Second
didn't do
World
great
War.
at hiding it.
Hans Schmidt-Polex, an Allianz executive and friend of von Fink, stated after the war that von Fink believed that Hitler was sent by God to save the German people. Fink remained a
Oh my
convinced Nazi
God, how
who would have
cringe
died
can
for
you
his
be?
beliefs if necessary. But for his beliefs, he did not have to die. Fink didn't actually have to do much at all.
So at August von Fink denazification trial, strange things started to happen. Evidence started to disappear from the case file. Witnesses who had incriminating evidence against von Fink suddenly didn't turn up. But most importantly, Julius Herf watered down the indictment against von Fink. Long after the trial ended, there was reporting that Herf had been blackmailed by von Fink's accomplices. Herf was homosexual. There were rumors of letters that he had sent to younger men that were used against him as part of the blackmail.
Oh my God, see, it's like homosexualism. Was already normalized back then, then this guy couldn't have been blackmailed, and the fucking criminal person could have been going to jail instead of a person just loving who he loves, having to fear going to jail. This is stupid.
And so von Fink escaped justice, although he did have to pay around 2,000 marks towards a general restitution fund, but he appealed it on the basis of a knee injury that he had sustained during World War I, which was actually granted.
He never had any kind of criminal penalty against him. He went off scot-free.
By 1970,
What the
August von Fink Sr. became Germany's second richest man. After his death, his eldest son August Jr. inherited his fortune, and the Jr. sold the Allianz and Merrick Fink shares to Barclays Bank. When August Jr. died in 2021, his wife and their children inherited a fortune estimated around 8 billion euros. However, attempt to find any acknowledgement by that family of their wealth's past, and it seems little can be found.
There's no evidence that August von Fink Jr. or his children or his wife have any indication that they want to come clean with regards to the Nazi past of the von Fink dynasty.
Loser behavior, oh my God, just fucking say. Like, oh my God, how hard can it be? Hey, I know my grandfather did like a lot of bad things for getting this money, and I deeply regret that he took these actions in the past. However, now I cannot change these things. So we will just try to keep moving forward and try to live a morally correct life. And then it's fucking done, but you can't just not say anything like, oh my
The
God,
von Fink
this
family
is so much
may not
worse.
even be the most wealthy, but silent of the Nazi billionaire dynasties.
That's the worst one.
In September of 2015, the
This
richest
one
woman
makes
in
me
Germany
angry.
and one of the richest people in the entire world spoke at a press conference.
Deutschland ist ein Gründerland. Was zur Gründerzeit Männer wie Karl von Linde oder Robert Bosch waren.
Suzanne Clausen is one of the heirs of the most successful German business dynasties in history, BMW. But in a press
Shut the
conference
fuck
where she references
up.
Germany's greatest founder,
You fucking cunts on the bottom right. Look at you, you fucking losers. Go fuck yourself.
there's a reason that Clausen makes absolutely no reference to her innovative founder father or grandfather. On a February evening in 1933, a few billionaires met at the official residence of the Reichstag-President Hermann Göring. Present were Baron August von Fink, Kurt Schmidt, a few chemical company executives, Gustav Krupp, Friedrich Flick, and a man named Günter Quandt. Only a few weeks earlier, Adolf Hitler had seized power as Chancellor, and he met the businessmen that February night personally to tell them the future of the nation. On March 5, 1933, the people of Germany would vote in Germany's last election. If Hitler were to be elected, the titans of German industry would get a stable business climate, but only if he was elected. That night, the founder of BMW helped write off a check for thousands of Reichsmarks to a man who had just told him that his goal was the end of German democracy. Gunther was one of the largest private industry users of forced enslaved labor in Nazi Germany, and Gunther is special because unlike the other military industrialists like Krupp and Flick, he was never held accountable for his crimes, and crimes he did commit. He became a leader of the armament economy, fueling the Third Reich with munition and batteries.
Günter Quandt was a brazen opportunist who tried to expand his business empire in all ways possible, profiteering from the Third Reich through mass weapons production, through the expropriation of Jewish-owned companies, expropriation of companies in German-occupied territories, as well as the mass.
It's just crazy to me that these guys get away with that shit.
At his Akkumulatorenfabrik in Hanover, by 1943, forced labor made around half of the workforce.
AFA, and is today known as Varta, which produces the batteries in your AirPods, had a massive new factory in Hanover, in the center of Germany.
In collaboration with the SS, they built a sub-concentration camp on the factory complex. The concentration camp was set up with gallows and an execution area. Prisoners had accidents with boiling hot metal, and hands and arms would get stuck in Gunther's machinery, with flesh and bones being ripped off while fully conscious.
Random beatings,
this is awful.
No medical care.
The company calculated that there would be a turnover rate of 80 people dying each month, with slaves lasting on average for 6.
Günter Quandt ended up using about 60,000 forced enslaved laborers across his battery and weapons companies. But the topic of forced enslaved labor did not come up at all during his denazification trial. Neither did the many Aryanizations that
this is so fucking crazy
all across Europe and in Nazi Germany.
Günter Quandt, like von Fink, was deemed a fellow traveler who only had to pay a monetary fine. He got off scot-free and never received any kind of criminal punishment.
Yeah, the guy that's literally whatever.
Günter Quandt had a stronger link with Nazi Germany than the supply chain of thousands of slave laborers in exchange for ammunition and batteries. His second wife divorced him and instead married one of the chief architects of the Nazi regime.
This is the craziest part. Joseph Goebbels. It's like one of the main people in the entire Second World War, like you would call this the biggest Nazi next to Hitler. Maybe Himmler on the same level, but oh my god. He was directly associated with Joseph fucking Goebbels. Everyone knows this guy. He's a guy that made the total war speech that everyone knows. It's like, that's the crazy part to me. How can this be possible?
Goebbels was the chief propagandist and also doting stepfather of Günter and Magda's son, Harold Quandt. Harold Quandt grew up in one of the most radical families in the Third Reich.
And he ended up being the only one of Magda Goebbels' children who survived the second.
Because guess why he's the only one surviving? The other 7 kids were poisoned by their own mother in the fucking Führerbunker 1945 on the 26th April because the mother couldn't imagine a world for their children without National Socialism. She did not want her children to grow up without fucking Nazis, and that's why she killed them.
Second World War, because Magda Goebbels ended up murdering her 6 children and then committing suicide with
6, sorry, not 7.
After the war, he became one of the wealthiest men in West Germany, but he passed away in an airplane accident at the age of 45, leaving his descendants with hundreds of millions.
Yeah, well, it could have had
Today,
that
his
accident
daughters
a bit
and
earlier,
Goebbels'
couldn't that,
step-grandchildren maintain a low profile, having their wealth managed through the Harold Quandt family office, which reports to have 3. In May of 2017, 3 people.
Oh god, I didn't want to go back. What the hell? Here, this is where I
reports
was.
To have a low profile, having their wealth managed through the Harold Quandt
Why
family.
can't it pause? Oh my god.
These
5 people, how come these 5 people are billionaires? Next up, they're saying their wealth is being managed by a fucking wealth foundation. You know what that means? They're not even doing anything for their wealth. They're just wealthy because their fucking parents were Nazis. Main contributor Nazis, literally being at fault for several million Jews, 6 million Jews, several million other ethnicities being cleansed, thrown away, forced, tortured, and whatnot.
Step-grandchildren maintain a low profile, having their wealth managed through the Harold Quant family.
You maintain a lower profile. How about you maintain the profile of a fucking normal person that's not a fucking Nazi descendant? How about?
Which reports to have 3 sole and 1 majority shareholding in several financial service companies with approximately $17 billion in assets. The inheritors of millions are now silent billionaires today. But as interesting as Harold
Oh, silent billionaires. You know what silent this part means? It means they just are billionaires without ever having anything done for it. That's the word silent. Yeah, well, they should stay silent with their fucking mouses and give away their money to fucking charity. Oh my god.
Quant and his daughters are, it's Herbert Quant that deserves a bit more attention.
Herbert Quant was the eldest son of Günter Quant, and he later became known as the savior of BMW because he saved BMW from bankruptcy in the 1960s.
Today, you can still find a BMW Foundation in Herbert Quant's name, which promotes responsible leadership.
I saved them from bankruptcy.
And Herbert Quant was quite the responsible leader.
He was a Nazi criminal
so responsible.
who built a concentration camp in German-occupied Poland, who exploited thousands of forced enslaved laborers, including female concentration captives at battery factories.
Oh my god.
Herbert Quant, like his father, escaped justice. According to Benjamin Ferencz, a Nuremberg trial prosecutor, if all the facts had come out at the time, Herbert Quant would have been prosecuted. But he wasn't. Instead, he'd stay one of Germany's wealthiest, leaving a fortune to children who still remain some of the richest people on the planet. Both Suzanne Claudin and her brother, Stefan Quant, have a near half ownership of BMW, with both serving on the supervisory board.
Yeah, these 2 people are among the wealthiest in Germany, like top 10 or something like that.
And they still run a foundation in the name of their Nazi war criminal father, and even today seem to avoid full transparency.
So, in a
Have you ever seen these people? I'll spit on them, make sure to call them Nazis. Because I don't give a shit if they're not at fault for doing this, but if you're not renaming a fucking organization to something else instead of your war criminal Nazi father, then maybe you're just an asshole.
Summer of 2021, I had sent my questions to the spokesman of Stefan Quant, and some of the questions were never answered, including, do you think that the biography of Herbert Quant on the Herbert Quant Media website is transparent and accurate? And then a few months after I sent that question, overnight, they changed the biography to give a little bit more a semblance of transparency. So it's a very subtle, insidious way of whitewashing.
In a press statement to us, the Quant family office press team mentioned several ways in which the family deals with their ancestors' Nazi past. 1.
Yeah, by spending the money. The best, so the way we deal with the past of our Nazi grandfather is that we just spend that disgusting money on yachts, because we don't want to keep that money, you know, like that's how we show that we do not support Nazis.
Quant and Gabriele Quant have openly spoken about it.
I was listening to a rant about Nazis
in 2011. 2. Since 2011, the family has supported the Documentation Center for Nazi forced labor in Berlin. 3. Stefan Quant and other family members have met some former forced laborers.
What? Mr. Stefan Quant and other family members also visited the historic site of a former forced labor camp in Berlin where they met former forced laborers and their families. The fuck? This is something every single child in Germany did for school. This is not impressive, Mr. Stefan Quant. It's like, I also saw what atrocities the Nazis did, guys, and I'm such a good person, guys. I'm one of you. I'm totally not a billionaire that profited off Jews being executed, forced labor, and generally just my dad or grandpa being an absolute asshole.
In person. And 4. Suzanne Claudin supports different Jewish organizations and has received a prize for her engagement.
Fun fact, Austrians don't have to do it. Well, we don't have to do it. It was just very common. But you should be doing it, like, oh my god.
We also asked why the Quants only commissioned research into their Nazi past after a German documentary about this past came out in 2007.
Of course. So they didn't give a shit until there was a documentary and they were like, shit, we gotta do something now.
The documentary put immense pressure on the family.
It's not coming
In their
around,
answer,
it's so
the
sad.
press office seems to suggest that the family was shaken by the reporting, but did not have all the facts prior to them being made public on TV. However, the documentary also showed the family's unwillingness to help journalists investigate their past.
Seit Beginn unserer Recherchen im Jahre 2002 werden alle Interviewanfragen abgelehnt.
They're like, well, we didn't know about that. And then whenever an interview regarding it is being requested, nope, I don't give a shit, guys, come on. Nazi pass, I don't care. Then the documentary is released. Oh no, we didn't know, guys. Please, you can't judge us. We didn't know. I didn't know my grandfather was a war criminal using forced labor, which resulted in me being a rich fucking asshole. Well, now I'm still a rich asshole, but I'm apologetic about it.
Schriftlich heißt es unter anderem, man wolle nur ungern in eine Situation gebracht werden, sich dafür verteidigen oder gar entschuldigen zu müssen, dieser Familie anzugehören.
Oh my god. I can't even describe that.
The family
That's
also did
disgusting.
not answer some of our questions like why they choose to keep awarding the much criticized Herbert Quandt Media Prize for journalists, or if they're planning to change the name of the Herbert Quandt Foundation. The biographies on both websites were sent to us by the press office. They mentioned some of his crimes, but commend him nonetheless. He supposedly was, quote, one of the most influential and visionary personalities in German corporate and economic history. He demonstrated daring and
How about
farsightedness.
one of the most
After the
asshole
Second World War, the German population was initially unwilling to discuss and accept guilt. This slowly changed over the years through an emerging culture of remembrance, zu Deutsch Erinnerungskultur. This is seen as a national responsibility to accept, remember, and learn from the collective radicalization of the country and the horrendous crimes of the Nazi regime. This is formalized in the government financing memorials, museums, and archives. Through history lessons and political education, the nation strives to make National Socialism and the Holocaust graspable on the one hand, and on the other, it intends to form personalities who can resist mass or genocidal violence. It's meant to develop civil courage and a citizen's ability to take part in the democratic process. Erinnerungskultur is much debated in Germany. Has it become too symbolic, maybe too self-serving? But only the fringes ever question its existence.
Je mehr wir darüber nachdenken und daran erinnert werden alle, genauso wird man im Ausland daran erinnert. Und wir müssten endlich mal versuchen, das zu vergessen.
Shut the fuck up, you loser. You just want to forget because you were a prostitute. So you want people to forget why you are a fucking billionaire. Shut the fuck up. Why? Why would we want to forget about an historical part which was extremely negative from our ancestors' side? In case of me being a German, of course. And it's... God. There's nothing wrong with being reminded of something awfully that happened, especially when it keeps getting... if we keep running into similarities nowadays.
To not partake in Erinnerungskultur is extremely questionable, especially if significant parts of one's wealth originate in war crimes and exploitation. It should not be hidden, but remembered.
Exactly. Thank you, friend, for this very nice video. I appreciate it so much.